when you have a nice house, money, you're invited everywhere. What more is there?
I'm not sure you understand. Some people want more.
Do I sense rebellion in our midst?
We are the next generation. I think we should fight for that.
You promised I could marry for love.
Let me be my own person.
I want to know if I get a say in our children's lives.
I won't question your business if you don't question mine.
I suppose there's no match for you in wielding authority.
Now who's being dramatic?
Well, I think you have to pay attention to the idea that Bertha is preemptively trying to make society comfortable for divorced women. We know Bertha, we know that any effort she's making is not entirely altruistic. There's always something self-serving in that effort. And so, perhaps if we were to get a season 4, which we would love to have, we would explore that possibility. But it's not, the train hasn't left the station, so to speak. Railroad Daddy.
No, I think the audience should be worried, because I think all possibilities are on the table.
Absolutely.
But we don't really. Yeah, it's not fatal yet.
Yes.
My critique is fundamentally systemic. There should not be billionaires. It doesn't mean that any one of these individuals, some of them happen to be assholes. It doesn't mean that they all are necessarily, right? You could have a very benevolent billionaire. Still, the existence of that billionaire is contradictory to democracy and sort of fairness, right? Like you should not, even if even philanthropy. If you decide I'm going to give $10 billion or $20 billion to the effort to fight climate change, that means you get to dictate how that fight is done, right? So that isn't democratic. That isn't, it's not the critique. I don't know. I think the idea of like looking at billionaires or millionaires in our era, spending time with people who have that kind of wealth and power, and seeing their human qualities, it's not contradictory to a critique of a system that allows that kind of concentration of power. The system is still profoundly flawed, and the system should be fought, whether or not you can see these people as human beings.
And yet we are humanizing them, so they're more morally complex.
And making them sexy.
Which
is all they really want. That's what they really want.
Yeah, because
They
some of
want
them
to be
are
hot.
deeply unsexy.
Deeply unhot.
Trying really hard.
I think this rift around Gladys has really made him feel like they aren't on the same page. I think it's always, I don't know, that's something in a relationship that you really come to rely on, that you just sort of see the world the same way, or you may have differences, but there's a sense that you're gonna be speaking the same language. And I think because of this rift with Gladys, he has a sense that maybe they're not speaking the same language. And so as his life begins to unravel, and he's feeling actually quite vulnerable, I think he just doesn't feel like they can talk about it.
It's true that her relationship is very strained by what she's doing with Gladys, but she doesn't notice for a long time. She's not really, she takes her eye off that ball. Now, to be fair, George isn't operating at full disclosure, so she doesn't know exactly the stakes that he's dealing with because he's not really telling her. One of the consequences of that is that we've always seen when Bertha reveals her vulnerabilities, it's always to George, but she loses that space. And she's really spinning out and very isolated in this. And so we see her really feeling the weight of her choices that has left her really alone, friendless, and now losing a grip on her family, even though she still feels very confident that she's right, and it even bears out that she is right.
When has Bertha been wrong? I don't know.
Never. And if people would listen to Bertha or me, everything would be better.
Let's listen to Carrie Coon, everybody. I think that's what we can take away from this.
So so first of all, the temperance movement was extremely popular at this time, and it was very much a women's movement. And I think two things I want to say about it. One is that I feel like Ada really sees the world in terms of virtue, and Agnes really sees the world in terms of power. And so Ada's doing something which doesn't usually work. She's trying to sort of legislate morality. She's trying to legislate virtue because she sees there are all these men and they drink too much, they spend their paycheck, they beat their wives, there's no money left for the children to eat, and right, all of these things are bad. But she doesn't see the real root of the problem, and the real root of the problem is that women don't have power. And so we learn in the first episode that there is also this suffrage movement on the move, And it's funny because if you would speak about it in these broad terms, you would think Ada is more left wing than Agnes, but actually Agnes is far more intuitive and really sees that if you want to solve these problems that Ada is concerned about, it's really women need the vote. Women need to acquire power to stop being victimized.
Is there anything you'd like to add to how that affects?
Oh, well, I think Agnes loves her wine. She cannot imagine dinner without wine, particularly now that her sister is running the house. I would think she looks forward to her cocktail or two at the end of the day. So it's a form of, it's a natural kind of tranquilizer. I'm being a little facetious, but I think what I see with my sister is this extraordinary need to because I do bring up that you were interested in this charity and then that charity, and now you're interested, you're just grabbing at things, and I'm concerned for her not to spend her money and her fortune. I'm much more conservative that way. My fear is that Ada's going to, just because of her generous nature, she will run headlong into something that is not wise, and she does indeed during the course of the season get seriously duped. And I've always been protective of Ada's innocence, as you see in the second season, rushing into a marriage. What do you know about marriage? You've never been a wife. Part of it is selfish because I don't want to lose Ada, and I'm a little nervous about her exerting so much power, but I also don't want her to get hurt just because people with that level of innocence and emotional generosity can really get hurt by the world.
Yes, Ada has a lot of trouble. One of the things she does is she's always been sort of more friendly to the servants, and now she has to be their boss, and that's disorienting. But she's trying to walk a fine line, but then I think in some ways she becomes even more dictatorial than Agnes, right? Agnes would never interfere in the servants' personal lives.
Tell the servants they can't drink.
And Ada just thinks that drinking is bad, and that everybody upstairs and downstairs should just stop drinking right now. It matters to me. I'm your boss and I'm your friend. Don't you want to do this thing that I'm asking you? I do so much for you. Couldn't you just do this small thing for me?
And for Agnes, how does she adjust to completely losing her authority?
She's not doing very well, is she? You're talking about a woman who spent her entire life, starting from probably being a teenager and looking after her little sister, and then making a very big decision to get married to a man that she really didn't love for the sake of, saving both of us and having, being a protector of Ada. So to be in that position of authority, and her whole identity is based on a certain strength and stature. She has money, she has stature in society, she's a woman of opinions. For that to be upended, it's a pretty big fall from her perch, which makes it delicious to play as actresses and allows for just a lot of humor, starting with finagling about the china and the silverware and who's going to, make up the menu and who's going to pay for the clothes. And it's a lot of just, a lot of grumpiness, which is funny. It's, The Odd Couple.
Yeah, certainly the grumpiness. Agnes is certainly known for that. She has some of
She's Oscar, yes.
Yes.
And you're Felix.
Yes, I'm Felix, yes. That's true.
Some of the best one-liners of the whole show Agnes has this season. It's so fun, like in the first episode. Why are you really that petty? And like, no, I'm discerning. There's a difference. It's so funny.
I know, but that's pure Julian Fellows. I can't take credit for that. All I had to do was say it with conviction. That's Julian Fellows.
Oh, I love that question. They're such a power couple. I feel like not only were they raised to really see huge possibilities for themselves because of the kind of trailblazers that both of their parents were, I think they have also set out paths that their parents don't really approve of in their own lives. You know, I think they both know what it's like to kind of follow their own bliss in a way. And I think they see that in one another. And then I think when he sees her for her intellect so quickly, she takes another look in a way that it's like, oh, you not only are attracted to me, you can dream up a life where I get to keep dreaming up my own life, you know?
Yeah, I think that is the thing that attracts Dr. Kirkland to Miss Scott immediately. Beyond the eyes is what's behind the eyes, and then also what's in her heart. She's such a good person, and she's incredibly smart, has her own dreams, has her own ambitions, and still wants to be a mother, and still wants to be, she wants all of those things. And she's strong enough to stand up to his mom, which he can do and does do in little ways over the course of the season. But I think when he sees all of the things that she's been through, of course if she can get through all of that, she can handle anything. I'm the lucky one here. Like I'm incredibly, incredibly lucky. And they really are just a powerful symbiotic couple. No, well,
it depends. You know, if you're watching Black films, I do think that it's something within our community you can't ignore because it's just something that's in the texture of everything.
Yeah.
But to see it in this context, I think is really interesting, and just the ways that the concepts of white supremacy can be embodied in any human, unfortunately, you know? And to get into that, I think is very...
Yeah, and to get to the roots of it beyond just the color of one's skin, it's also about the class of someone, and do they have the trauma of slavery in their family's past? And Felicia and I talked quite often off camera in character about Peggy and why she feels the way she does. And she would always make it clear it's not that she dislikes Peggy as a person, she just doesn't like her as a match for her son. Which to her, those are two distinct differences. And it's like, okay, and holding space for that to be true, but holding space for my feelings it's my life. These are my feelings, and this is who I desire. And you know, what is blackness, and all, you know, all of these different passing strange type questions that persist within our community, as Danae said today. If you watch any Black stories, they really do persist. And it's also not, but it isn't something that we get to express in this time period or talk about at this level on a network such as this that often. So if ever. So to be able to have that be the story means a lot. So hopefully we can have tools to talk about it today in a more nuanced way.
So interesting that you would talk off camera in character.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
That's what she would like to
do,
right?
Yeah, because we don't get the same time we get in rehearsals or anything like that. So
on stage.
Yeah. So I remember meeting Felicia in the makeup trailer our first day of shooting together, and she was just like, "Son," and I was like, "Mom," and then from then on we just kept that kind of rapport going. I still call her Ma. I texted her after Purpose won the Tony and congratulated her. Congratulations, Ma, you know, and I think we'll always have that kind of connection and relationship. And the more you can dive into doing that work on a set, the more it's going to show up on camera. Because I think Kirkland loves his mom and respects his mom. And that's why he's able to love and respect Peggy so much too, because how he feels about Peggy is how he feels about his mom ultimately. Peggy's just obviously a little more modern and forward thinking.
Well, that's quite a difficult question, really. I mean, I think when a couple seeks to get divorced, the first thing they have to find out, really, is are they in possession of a good relationship where there is a problem, or is the problem that their relationship is no good? And that's what I think that our couples are all really trying to find out, because Aurora, obviously, would be content to just go on living as she's lived until now and not rock the boat. but Charles wants something more than that. Do we dislike him for that? Do we think she's right to stay with the compromise or not? I mean, I hope that all of these questions are coming up in the public's minds, really.
I think she is insecure because she's made these mistakes in the past and been engaged twice. And really, her, as a woman, in that time in society, her raison d'etre is to get married. So I think Marion is going to struggle with her fear and also, her future, what she really wants for her future. But they do have this basis of friendship that I think is really beautiful, and so we just have to watch and see if they can work it out.
But I think she has a problem that for her, it's not enough just to marry and run a house and the children and tell the cook what they want to eat on Friday night. That isn't enough for her. She wants to feel she's done more with her life. She's done something of real value, but she doesn't have a particular talent. She's not a pianist, she's not a singer, she's not a painter. It's just a kind of generalized wish to do something that means something. And I think for women at that time, that was extremely hard. If you weren't prepared just to do a bit of charity work on top of your ordinary life, which of course was socially acceptable and was the way out for a lot of them. But if you want more than that, then it was a difficult period to operate in, and she's having to address that.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's inspired by everything that Peggy does. And Peggy has a kind of a freedom that Marion doesn't think that she has, and I think gets courageous enough to actually experience and try out. So, yeah, I absolutely do.
And Marion, I think, is aware of the fact that Peggy has a real gift. She has a real talent. And that, in a way, is above just wanting to do good in the world. It makes her a sort of superior being. And I think their relationship reflects that. And that, in fact, in a way, Peggy is the leader of the pair of them because she is the sort of moral pioneer. Marion, I think they like each other. I think it's a perfectly sincere friendship. But Marion doesn't have the moral courage of Peggy because she doesn't have the talent.
Well, I just haven't really seen colorism portrayed on television and film. I think there was a very early Spike Lee movie that dealt with that, and so it's a real issue within the Black community, within the Latino community. So I've just never seen it done. It was an issue. Certainly, I had some white ancestry on one side of the family and indigenous ancestry on the other. And so I had two grandmothers who were very concerned about how much exposure I got to the sun. So it was an issue in my family, and I thought, yes, why not bring it to light here? Well, I mean, Ms. Rashad, like other women of the time, Mrs. Fish's character, Mrs. Kirkland's character, were anti-suffragist. So, when we got the history and the research back about these specific women in the upper class being anti-suffragist, I was surprised, but we wanted to portray that because that was real. And so these two women, Mrs. Kirkland's character and Peggy, are at odds about many things, including women's right to vote.
I think also the great advantage to us of women's suffrage was that it cuts across everything. Class, colour, religion. Everyone was involved in this fight, and there was no predicting which side they'd be on. And so you have families split down the middle and so on. That's always good for television, is to have reasons for people to be opposed that aren't predictable, that aren't just class-based or whatever it is. That this was an issue that really cut families in half. And we wanted to explore that. And also, I think, we had a lesser thing of wanting to show the black community could be just as divided and split up about different issues as the white community, that any community of human beings is capable of division. And that really was another motive for bringing it into our storyline.
I think by its nature, that's the way of love. Like, it is overcoming, and also you got to give everything away to truly be in the frequency of love. Like, it is. That's the exploration for every character. Is they're all struggling what to hold on to, and where they try to have power over each other, but really they'll only really have power when they give up the power, and when they fall into this love and in this heart space, and then that in turn conquers what complexity they're coming up against.
I mean, I think Gladys definitely experiences it costs everything. For the love conquers all, I think maybe she's catching a glimpse of that towards the end of the season, but she's still in a bit of an exploration period with that, I think.
I think our mum's love is conquering the
Really?
dissonance and the problems that's there. It's like overcoming all of that.
It's costing her
friction they're
everything,
coming.
and it's, You know, Gladys just wants freedom. As any young woman in that time period who can't really have access to much freedom, she wants to be able to make her own decisions. And for her, she thinks that means just right now, I'm saying what I want to do, and that's that. It's a bit naive, it's a bit childlike. I think Bertha's playing the long game where she's trying to set Gladys up on a pedestal so that she can continue to choose the things that make her happy, even if the first choice isn't the one that Gladys wants.